My name's Evan Miller, a 58-year-old land surveyor and part-time rancher in Colorado. I've seen some wild property disputes in my career, but nothing, and I mean nothing, compares to what the Willow Creek Homeowners Association pulled on me. They thought they could build 98 homes on my land. They thought they could bully me with lawyers, threats, and forged documents. But what they didn't know was that I'd been watching them the whole time. And every move they made was walking straight into my legal trap. The land they forgot existed. My late grandfather bought 300 acres of land back in the 1950s, a peaceful stretch of woodland and creek banks about 20 miles outside Denver. After he passed, the land was divided between his kids. My mom inherited 40 acres, a section tucked between hills, with a spring-fed pond and old-growth pines. She used to say, "One day, this land will protect you more than any city ever could." Turns out, she was right. For years, I paid the property taxes and used the land occasionally for camping and hunting. It wasn't worth much to anyone else. Rocky soil, no direct road, and no utilities. Developers had tried to buy it a few times, but I always refused. It was sentimental. Then one day, I got a drone mapping contract from a company called High Point Developments, who claimed they were building a new luxury subdivision called Willow Creek Estates. When I saw the coordinates on the request, I nearly choked on my coffee. They were asking me to survey my own land. The error. That wasn't an error. I drove out to the area and found bulldozers tearing through the woods. Trees I grew up climbing were flattened. Gravel trucks lined up along what used to be a deer trail. When I stopped one of the workers and asked who gave permission, he shrugged and said, "HOA board approved it. Phase 2 of Willow Creek Estates. HOA board." There wasn't even a Phase 1 when I last checked. I tracked down the development office and found a woman named Karen Bishop, the HOA president. She was the type who wore diamonds to construction sites and treated everyone like her assistant. When I introduced myself as the landowner, she gave me that fake smile people wear when they think you're beneath them. "Oh, that can't be right," she said. "This land belongs to Willow Creek HOA. We've already filed all the paperwork." I asked to see the paperwork. She produced a thick binder of plats and deeds, all with a county stamp. But the problem, every single document referenced the wrong parcel number. They had accidentally, or maybe intentionally, merged my lot with the adjacent developer's land. Someone had copied the coordinates wrong on a zoning request 2 years ago. And the county clerk, apparently asleep at the wheel, approved it without verifying ownership. They thought my land was unclaimed buffer space. I could have stopped them, but I didn't. At that point, only a few foundations were poured. A rational man might have immediately called the sheriff, filed an injunction, and stopped construction. But as I stood there watching their heavy machinery rip into my soil, something in me snapped, not with anger, but clarity. If I stopped them now, they'd fix the paperwork, pay me off, and keep going. If I let them keep building, they'd bury themselves under my ownership. So I pretended to be confused. "Oh wow," I said, "must have been a mix-up. I'll call the county to verify." Karen smiled, clearly thinking she'd intimidated me. "Do that, sweetie. But we're well within our rights. Everything's approved by zoning." "Of course," I said. "I'll stay out of your way." Then I went home and called my old friend, Sarah Jensen, a real estate attorney I'd worked with for years. I told her the entire story, sent her copies of the deeds, maps, and satellite images. After 20 minutes of silence, she said, "Evan, this is the most airtight case of adverse encroachment I've ever seen. If they finish building on your property, they're done for. The legal trap." We got to work. Sarah helped me draft a quiet title claim and file a notice of ownership in the county land records. This legally established that I was aware of the encroachment but had not granted permission. It's the legal equivalent of saying, "I see you building on my land, and I'm letting you, for now." That single filing froze any chance they'd later claim adverse possession, or good faith development. Next, I had my surveyor license come in handy. I redrew the accurate boundaries using my own instruments and filed them with the assessor's office, making sure they were timestamped before any new construction permits could be issued. For the next 8 months, I watched Willow Creek estates rise, from foundations to finished homes. 98 in total, each worth between $600,000 and $900,000. Driveways, sidewalks, lawns, all perfectly built across my property line. Not one person ever checked the boundary markers I'd clearly reinstalled. By the time they sold the first 60 homes, I had everything I needed. The grand unveiling. I waited until the last home was completed. The HOA Clubhouse, a $2 million facility with a pool, tennis courts, and a private lake trail. Then I mailed 98 certified letters, one to each homeowner and one to the HOA board. The letter was polite, almost cheerful. Greater than, Dear Willow Creek homeowner. It has come to my attention that your residence is located on property legally owned by me, Evan Miller. I have enclosed a copy of my original deed, survey maps, and current county filings verifying ownership. You may wish to consult your title insurer regarding next steps, as all developments and transfers were conducted without my consent. Please note, I am not requesting immediate removal or compensation, yet. I simply wish to ensure all parties are properly informed before legal proceedings begin. The panic begins. Within 48 hours, my phone exploded with calls. Homeowners screamed that they'd been scammed. Real estate agents tried to negotiate. Karen left me a furious voicemail calling me a liar and a blackmailer. Then came the lawyers, their lawyers. High Point Developments sent a cease and desist, claiming I was extorting the HOA. I sent them back a copy of my survey, title, and timestamps showing that my land had never changed hands. Sarah and I filed a formal complaint in district court, seeking either eviction of all 98 homes or fair market restitution. When news broke, the local paper ran the headline, HOA accidentally builds $70 million community on wrong land. The county launched an internal investigation. The clerk who approved the zoning documents was suspended. High Point's CEO vanished to Florida. And Karen Bishop, suddenly the most hated woman in the neighborhood, tried to hold an emergency HOA meeting. But when she tried to use the clubhouse, the sheriff served her my court notice. Because that building, also sitting on my parcel. The court battle. It took nearly 2 years of legal wrangling, appraisals, and hearings. The developers argued that I should accept reasonable compensation. I argued that I'd never consented to any of this. My lawyers were brutal, and the law was on our side. Under Colorado Revised Statute Section 3841101, a good faith builder who constructs on someone else's land without permission has no right to the property. The landowner can demand removal, compensation, or full transfer of improvements. In simple terms, I could legally own every structure built on my soil. And since all 98 homes, the clubhouse, and even parts of the road were within my boundary, that made me, technically, the owner of a brand new subdivision. Karen tried to spin it as a clerical accident, but emails subpoenaed from High Point showed she'd pushed through the zoning, despite irregularities, because no one would notice an old undeveloped plot. That line sank their case. The settlement offer. 3 weeks before trial, High Point's insurance company begged for settlement. Their proposal, $14 million cash, legal transfer of all built infrastructure, HOA dissolution, and a signed apology from Karen Bishop. Sarah and I reviewed it and laughed. Evan, she said, you could take everything, the homes, the land, all of it. But I didn't want to evict nearly 100 families who'd been duped. Most were innocent buyers who'd sunk their savings into what they thought was their dream home. So, I made a counteroffer, my own trap within the trap. The twist. I offered to sell each homeowner their lot back, directly through me, at 1/3 market value, but only if they voted to dissolve the HOA and sign an affidavit naming Karen and High Point as responsible for fraud. It passed unanimously. The HOA officially disbanded. Karen was forced to resign and later faced charges for document falsification and conspiracy to commit fraud. High Point paid the entire settlement and declared bankruptcy soon after. When the dust settled, I owned 40 acres of premium real estate, debt-free, with new roads, power lines, and infrastructure, all paid for by the same people who tried to steal it. I sold 60 of the lots to individual homeowners under my own terms and kept the rest as a nature reserve, now renamed Miller Creek Preserve. And the old clubhouse. I turned it into my surveyor's office. The sign out front reads, "Greater than Miller Land and Legal Surveying. We don't just draw boundaries, we enforce them." Karen's final visit. About a year later, Karen showed up at my office. Her diamonds were gone, her hair dull, her expression tight. "You ruined my life," she hissed. I leaned back in my chair and smiled. "No, Karen, you ruined it the moment you decided my land didn't matter." She glared, then muttered something about suing me again. I pointed at the "No trespassing, private property" sign outside the window. "This time," I said, "I'd suggest you read the boundaries." She stormed off. Haven't seen her since. The irony still gets me. The HOA had spent 2 years enforcing rules about mailbox height, fence color, and lawn length, on land that wasn't even theirs. They fined residents hundreds for violating HOA covenants, all while sitting squarely on my property. When I took ownership, I shredded those covenants. I told everyone, "Your home, your rules. Just don't mess with my trees." The neighborhood became one of the most peaceful places in the county. No HOA fees, no harassment, no Karen. Sometimes I walk through at dusk and watch kids play in the streets, families barbecuing, people smiling, and it hits me. Something good actually came from all that chaos. All because a greedy HOA president thought she could steal a few acres from a man who reads maps for a living. Epilogue. The land wins again. A few months ago, I got a letter from the county commissioner. They wanted to name the new access road after me, Miller Way, to commemorate the property dispute that reshaped zoning law enforcement. I laughed and told them to go ahead. My grandfather would have loved it. And every time I drive past that sign, I remember what my mom used to say. Greater than, one day, this land will protect you more than any city ever could. She was right. Because while the HOA built 98 homes on my land, I built a legacy on theirs.